Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug Show Live. We are live with Ricky Kesler from Income School. He just ended a live stream a minute ago, so a bunch of people came over, and thanks for hopping on. So, Ricky, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Doing great.
Today, we're going to talk about your plan, a rather simple three-step plan to recover a site that dropped in rankings over the last few years, partially due to helpful content updates, core updates, and a change in the industry. So we're going to get into all those details. So for people that don't know you at all, quick intro. I think a lot of people do know you, but just to make sure you can let us know what you're all about.
Sounds good. Yeah. So, my name's Ricky. I'm the owner and co-founder of Income School. Basically, for the last several years, I think about 8 or 9 years on YouTube now. But I've been teaching. A lot of it's been blogging, but I've been teaching content creators how to create content, get traffic in an organic manner, and turn that into an income. I do that across blogging, but YouTube's been a huge part of what we teach, and that side of things is actually doing fantastic right now. But yeah, been following along with everything. Obviously, it's happening in blogging. I have several websites ourselves, and I'm actually pretty excited about this one because it was a bigger site that we sold, like early 2020, I think, and but now the guy that bought the website from me is just, he's like, it's just a shadow of what it once was. And he just called me up and was like, hey, do whatever you want with it. This can be a great case study, and we'll just split the profits. Anything we can make from it. And so I didn't have to buy it back or anything. It's just like, I'm just going to do some work and see if we can turn it around. And
Okay.
excited.
Perfect. Okay, that's a key question I was going to ask is like what transpired. So
Yeah.
the owners had it for a few years. He actually made some good money, and I
Mhm.
was inspired to reach out to you, Ricky, because you published a video about a week ago, so people could go check it out on the Income School channel. But I pulled some stats. So when you sold the site in 2020, it's getting about 80,000 page views a month. It grew over the next year or so, like many websites, and it peaked at 275,000 page views a month. And you mentioned in the video, this is a clarification question, you mentioned that it potentially had a value at its highest of like 400K. Can you elaborate on that and where that number came from?
Yeah, that was just based on the and the numbers that I haven't actually seen verified, and that's why it wasn't as specific, but rather from the owner of the website. He said it was making about $10,000 a month, basically just from ads in Amazon, which, especially a couple of years ago, 40x multipliers were pretty common. 30s to I mean, I saw some on Empire Flippers going for closer to 50. It was kind of crazy. And so that's kind of where that number came from, was about 10,000 a month over a period of time. And then based on about a 40x multiple. So
Okay.
350, maybe 400,000.
Okay. Yeah, totally. It was very interesting. It was a weird time. There was a lot of money like injected into the economy, and there was, I mean, the interest rates were like zero. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
time where there was a lot of free flowing money. So
Right.
not unusual to see like high 40s even, especially for a brand that has been established and showed like growth, which this one did. So, okay,
Yeah.
very good. And a couple years go by, a few years go by. So in 2024, it's getting about 13,000 page views per month. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Okay. And quick like side question, your the new owner of the site, you sold it to him, and he spent a good chunk of money. I think you sold it for $62,500 roughly.
Yeah.
All right, so big chunk of change. How how's the guy doing? Like like that's a huge amount of money. The valuation is probably like $10,000. People, it's like a timeshare. People
Yeah.
people don't even want the thing, right? So how's the guy doing?
Pretty well in general. He's a super go-getter type. So he's got his hand in multiple things. He was doing real estate before this, and at the time it was like, well, shoot, I could put $60,000 into a property and make, still have a mortgage on it and stuff, and make hundreds of dollars a month. Or I could put 60 grand into this website and make potentially thousands of dollars a month without having to do a whole lot to it. And so it was, at the time, a really good investment. And I mean, in the time he owned it, at least he made his money back. But in his case, he hasn't been totally dependent on that for his income, because he does other things too. He's got other business ventures. It's kind of cool because he's one of a couple people that I stay in pretty good communication with. We have kind of a text thread between us and another guy who are all doing a lot of different things. Some of it tied in with content creation and stuff. And so we just kind of touch base. And so he's got other stuff going, and he's just a hustler. So
Okay.
Because of that, he's doing well. But if this was like his thing, his only thing or his main thing, I mean, I think it would have been devastating.
Perfect. And a couple of quick thoughts before we get into like the game plan and what your plan is for the site. So it's great that he was able to earn his money back and then some. It sounds like he grew the site, so he made some investment and was able to pull some money out. So that's good. I've definitely heard of sites where the week after, the month after, it drops by 90% and people are left with essentially nothing. At least with real estate, like there's some physical intrinsic value. With a website, it could literally go to zero and people are like, this is actually more, like if you just gave it to me, it would be a huge amount of work.
Yes, correct.
So the other thing, which is a little bit deeper, maybe we'll have to table it, but people made the sort of comparison that you mentioned, like you could buy a piece of real estate for $100,000 and get a certain amount of return and revenue each month, or you could put it into a website and get like 5 times that or 10 times that. Yeah. And we were like, oh, it's like we figured something out, but like the risk is built into the price. Sometimes it's behind, but like if you're getting a huge return, then there's a lot of risk in there, and that's why you're getting a huge return. So I think maybe websites got away with it for a few years.
I think you're right.
But yeah, the valuation is built into the price, and like there's risk there. The risk is built into all that. And people forget that. I remember interviewing people and they're like, nope, this is just a formula and you just apply it. And yep, I could just buy a site for 150, do these 5 things and then sell it for 450. But not the case. Okay. So what is the plan? What's the plan? It's a sort of a 3-tier as far as I know. So we'll start high level and then we'll dive into each one a little deeper. So I'll turn it over to you, Ricky.
Yeah. And now I got to remember exactly what I said in that video, but I talked about, first of all, that website, it has a ton of content on it. And a lot of it, at least I know, was really good content. I mean, at the time we had college students writing for us, but a lot of them were people who were, it's an outdoors website. And a lot of these are people who grew up doing a lot of these activities, rock climbing and rappelling and boating and just all this fishing, all sorts of things. And so we were able at the time to, like when we hired people, we'd say, what of all these things have you done? And then they would say, and we're like, okay, cool. Like you might be a good fit here. And so we got just some really great content. So I know we've got a ton of great content. So what do we do with that? Well, we can use that content. We can repurpose it for social media. And so that's kind of, I talked about that as kind of one of the steps, but really it's potentially a really big step. And there are a lot of different ways to approach it. Different social media platforms cater to different demographics. And And really you want to cater your post to each one. But this is a place where AI can thrive because we can feed it an article that has all the right information that we know is good information, and then craft it into good social media posts. And I don't expect that most people that see those posts are going to click through, but again, we do that at scale and it works. We've done that with Pinterest, Pinterest is a little different than a lot of social media. It's more like a visual search engine. It's kind of like a different Google, and it's a lot easier to game than Google is. So as long as you have an audience on Pinterest, as long as there are people using Pinterest looking for the kind of stuff you make, it's not a hard platform to get decent traffic from. So that's, I think, one of the big steps is we're just going to be able to take the content we have and use it all over social media to build a little bit more of a brand. Now that I think about it, I don't think that was step one, but that was one of the three steps. I remember.
It's like a quiz. I could help you out. I'm sorry, I set you up for failure there.
No, not your fault. You told me what we were going to talk about. I should have had my notes up here. That's what I get for.
No, all good. I think you're covering it in the right priority, though. So content is something that you could repurpose. It is really good content, well written. And I think the first one was like legitimizing the site and providing signals that it's like a real entity.
Correct. Yeah. And I was just reminded of that one. I think that's what I said first. And part of the reason I said it first is because there are several things we can do that are pretty quick and easy. So, on the website right now, it doesn't have, the only contact info I think is probably a contact form, right? We can put a business address on it and a phone number. Almost nobody ever calls those phone numbers. Like I just set up a Google Voice number for Income School years ago. I put a voicemail on it that just says, hey, if you called us, like we don't have people manning the phones. So you're going to have better success probably if you email us here. But if you do leave a voicemail, I promise I will get back to you as soon as I can. And that's simple, right? It's like, I don't run the kind of business where we just answer the phone all the time. It doesn't make sense. And I've gotten away with that for years. And I've put that phone number on numerous sites that I own, but it helps to legitimize the site when there's real contact info. That's something that Kyle Roof told me, and it just rang true. He's like, real businesses have phone numbers. Real businesses have addresses. I think even a PO box is okay. And he's like, if you can and this was before everything went crazy, but even then it was like, if we can just send those signals to Google that were legitimate. Some other things. I don't know how important schema markup is these days with the way the AI is and the way Google can just read everything, but still not a bad idea to put organization schema on your website and author schema and create author profiles for the different people that write on your website and have a decent author bio with author schema for them so that it's easy for Google to put these pieces together. And if they've written on other websites, cool. Like let's put that in the schema markup and let's link to those other websites and show that this is a person that's built up some authority. And then if you have anything to sell, like create a Google business listing and try to get customer reviews. That's a local SEO hack. Like one of the most important things for local SEO is get customers to actually review you after they've had service with you. And like, that's key. And the way I'm looking at it is like, the more things that are just kind of like hard to fake, the better. Because that's the stuff that Google's going to trust. People have been faking backlinks forever. But, if I have an address that shows up on my website, it's also literally like showing up as a Google business location tied to my brand, all these things tied together. It gets harder and harder and harder to fake. And I think that is the easiest way to create a little bit of trust. Obviously from there, we're going to go out, we're going to try to participate in our industry, collaborate with other creators in your industry, get interviewed on a podcast or a YouTube channel or something like that, and just talk about your topic, that kind of stuff that builds credibility. And, these are all going to send positive signals to Google, but they're also going to build a reputation with actual people, which is also pretty key.
So we'll go a little bit deeper, but
Yeah.
in the spirit of making sure we cover the high level stuff. So we had content, we had legitimize, and I think you talk about monetization a little bit as well.
Yeah, that was probably it. And that's another place where we want to have the website feel more like a real business. And so what that means is monetization we won't just stick with affiliate links and ads. Those are both fine monetization techniques as long as you're doing them within reason. Some sites went way overboard with affiliate links, and they got hit. They've been hit multiple times over the years for that. But one of the things we want to do is make the website feel more like, somebody comes to the homepage, it's gonna guide them to, we're gonna lay out the homepage so that it guides them toward whatever their big area of interest is. If it's like, I just want to get introduced to the outdoors, okay, cool, we're gonna guide them there. And then in addition to blog content, we're also gonna have some specific recommendations for, again, a lot of it might be affiliate, but it's going to look a little bit more like a storefront, right? Just things that just make it feel like a business that's trying to help you. And then, from there, I think there are tons of opportunities for products, whether they be physical or digital type products. But when you sell your own stuff, I don't know, that seems to be a pretty positive signal to Google that, again, it's another thing that's harder to fake. And so websites that seem tied to real businesses have outperformed those who just are content based, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So that's where we'll go with monetization. And I don't know exactly what we'll create or what products we'll come up with, but that's going to be an area of focus for a while. I think we'll probably do some of that EEAT building stuff pretty quick, just because it's fairly easy. But also just at the same time, start getting really active on social media. I mentioned this in my live stream, but when I talk about active on social media, it's also not just posting your content, but then it's also interacting as your brand on those social media platforms, commenting on other people's posts and that kind of stuff. YouTubers miss out on this all the time, but it's like, it's great. Reply to all the comments on your videos, but does it also do something more when you go comment on a channel that's in your industry, like somebody else's channel, but your brand is there too? Does it do something when you show up and in the comments on someone else's live stream? It does. It does. And when it's somebody that, especially when you start to create these relationships with other content creators, like they will do exactly what I did, which was like, I called you out. I was like, oh, hey, Doug's here. Awesome. Welcome, Doug. Because we've built that relationship. And so it's a great way to, I don't know, kind of give a vote of confidence from one channel to another. And across social media, I think participation and just being active, I think is going to do a lot to strengthen that brand.
Yes, I appreciate the shout out. It's interesting. I can't remember if you said it in your stream or it all blurs together, or if it was when you were over here already. But yeah, on YouTube, there's a lot more collaboration in bloggers and maybe some other social media. It's like you're up against the world. But like I remember when I think I had maybe 1,000 subscribers, Income School had like 1,500, and I was like, hey, we should collaborate. I pinged Alex, and it was just like the thing you were supposed to do. Yeah. And it's worked out well because like we were literally all competing for the same like sort of videos and search terms and all that. But it's like we realize like having like being allies is better than us being like, all right, I'm going to try and beat you because, well, I'm not that
Right.
competitive, so I don't really, I don't really care.
Yeah. It's funny because like as bloggers, we've been so focused. I think this is part of it. We've been so focused on, search Google for so long. And it's like, well, whoever's article ranks number one on Google, they won. Right. And, and while the number one spot gets more clicks, people still read number two and three, like if I'm researching something, I often want multiple perspectives. Well, on YouTube, people usually on any topic that they really love, it's really common for people to have a few different voices they like to listen to. I don't, there's really not, I can't think of any topic on YouTube where there's only one channel I trust. And so like, I think it's great. Like that you would make a piece of content that shares your perspective on it. And we would make a piece of content that shares our perspective. And because of that, we can grow together and not feel so competitive. And maybe with the way things have gone with blogging and with Google in particular, I don't know, maybe bloggers can start to think that way more too, because we're going to be using, again, social media. We're going to be talking on podcasts. We're going to be doing all these other things. I don't know. Maybe bloggers will figure that out too.
Well, now it's us against them and them being Google, which
Yeah.
brings me to another point. I mean, a couple of the activities, some of the primary activities are to cater to Google. So as a devil's advocate,
Yeah.
you know, some of the other steps that you're taking is removing the dependency from Google. But like, why are you going back to Google and you're like, oh, Google my business, and you're like trying to make it look legitimate to Google primarily. Other search engines probably look at the same
Right.
thing, but like, why go back to get knocked down again?
I think that's I love that question. Um, I do want to remove the dependency on Google, but at the same time, I don't want to ignore the power that Google has. People are still using it like crazy to get answers to their questions. Now, to be fair, going forward, they're not going to share nearly as much traffic with us because they're going to use their AI to answer lots of questions. More so, I want my website to be a place where I can send people where I own it and I can capture leads. I can get people on an email list. I can sell them a product and I can put resources for them. So I think of my website more as like the hub that I own for my business. It's almost like that's my storefront. That's my brick and mortar. It's my place. Google My Business, I think, and part of it is I need to dive in a little deeper on other stuff, but using Google My Business, I can be, again, found by people that are using maps, doing local searches. And part of that has helped me a lot in my business because, I am literally working with local clients now to help them with their digital marketing for their businesses and stuff. And so I've gone to Google Maps, I've gone to Nextdoor, kind of all these other platforms I never really paid attention to before. And YouTube's owned by Google too, and so it's like, are we? But I think that's a good and thoughtful question. And part of it too is like people that are using Apple Maps and stuff. I don't know how much of this happens kind of automatically, and that's probably something I should research a little bit more. But it's like if I can get my business on Google, Bing is going to pull it. It's going to pull all that information. I can go, and I did actually, I think for Income School, but I can go to Bing and say, hey, I want to show up on Bing Maps. And then it's like, okay, cool. Do you have a Google business listing? Yeah, cool. Well, we can just pull everything from there, So it's like, it's not a bad starting point because it's so ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Google's just like got such a hold on the industry that everybody else is like catered their stuff to be able to just pull from it. And so, and actually I think Nextdoor did the same thing. It was like,
Right.
oh, you have a Google business listing? Cool. Well, we'll pull all the information from there and then you can customize your profile from there. So, but yeah, I don't want to ignore the fact that there's a lot of traffic that and tons of potential from Google. But you're totally right. I don't want to ever be dependent on them again.
Right. And I mean, sometimes I ask questions where I'm like, I'm placing myself as like someone from the audience. So I hope everybody understands that.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you understand, Ricky, I know. So
Yeah.
um, the the interesting the interesting thing is like you do get this argument, and me personally, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do other stuff. Like I'm not super interested. I'm not as competitive. I don't have as much time that I want to invest on SEO. It used to be easier, used to be interesting and more fun for me personally. Other people still find it interesting. The thing is, I mean, Google still has a massive, huge market share. So it is one of those situations where it's like, okay, I could be stubborn, but if I was saying my goal is to get SEO traffic, like go to the biggest search engine. I mean, I'm spending a lot of time on YouTube. The other one also still Google, but at least it's a different flavor and it's somewhat more democratized, I think. So
I agree. Yeah.
it's a little bit better. And there is a question about video, and I'm going to come to questions as they are relevant. So please keep asking out there. So Marcus says, as someone who doesn't like being on camera a lot, do you have suggestions for creating video materials? Ricky, what do you think?
Yeah. There are, and there's some great videos out there about how to successfully do even just kind of faceless YouTube channels. Kind of depending on the style you want to go with. People do it really well. You can use your own voice, or you can, I mean, AI voice is getting really good too. So basically, you just have a script and it reads it. Not perfect, but it's pretty good. Um, but you know, you still have to craft a good video with a compelling, storyline and all of that stuff. So you got to learn the YouTube skills and everything, but you can do it without necessarily showing your face. Um, Another thing is if you want to use video content, but maybe you want to focus on kind of all the platforms, the Instagram, you want to kind of create reels and stuff. There are a lot of good ways to do it. And drive traffic, especially if you have blog content and you're trying to drive traffic to your blog. I did a video a little while back where I took a website from one of our members who had a horse website, and I literally just went and grabbed some stock footage of horses running, like 3 different clips, strung them together, and then I think I probably added some music for those who are listening with the volume on. That again, because I do YouTube, I have an account that I can just get music from, and then I just put some text on the screen, and all I did was I shared one interesting fact from the article, and I literally just wrote it on the screen. It was like, "Did you know?" Da, 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 and so you had to watch it over time to get the full fact, but the whole thing was, I don't know, probably like 10 seconds long. And I don't know, like I gave it to her. I don't know if she's even posted it. I don't know how it's performed, but that's going to do better than just a random stock photo of a horse, which is what she was doing on her Instagram. It's going to be more eye catching because there's movement and stuff. So you can use video content like that for all the social media platforms, and it's not that hard. I mean, I did it in minutes, basically on camera. And anyway, so there are a lot of ways to do it. Another thing too is you may feel like, I don't really want to be on camera. You may find that as you start doing video, that doesn't bother you so much anymore too. I see that happen all the time. So just a few different approaches.
Yep. And I agree with the second approach, just the sort of get over it. Um,
Yeah.
anything is uncomfortable if you're like growing. And
Right.
that said, Tony Simplify Gardening mentioned the same thing. Like you won't build as strong of a connection if you do faceless, which is true. The thing, I actually like a few of these channels, 2 specific industries. One's like geography. The other one is it's like maybe like demography, like the demographics of different places.
Uh-huh.
And the other is, oh gosh, I can't think of it now. I guess just personal finance and economics, but it's like they're video essays. Like these are video
Yeah.
essays. I've actually seen it for analyzing like movies and TV shows. There's one that I haven't watched yet. It's crazy. Ricky, did you watch Frasier, the TV show?
Oh, I totally watched Frasier. Yeah.
One of my favorites. I think I've watched it all the way through, like 13 seasons twice.
Uh-huh.
There is I think it's like a 2 hour and 20 minute like video essay of like Frasier through Cheers and like the whole because he was in Cheers. I've watched Cheers a
Yeah.
few times too.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's like about a show that went off the air 20 years ago, right? So it went off the air 20 years ago. Cheers started in the early 80s, and I grew up watching that too. But anyway, the
Yeah.
point is it's like it's just clips, and the guy like wrote an essay apparently like I don't know how many pages long it is, but it's like this is like longer than a movie, like a motion picture like
Yeah.
movie, and it's just on YouTube. And I think it has like I can't remember. It's either hundreds of thousands or like millions of views. So the point is like you can do video essays about like anything you want,
Right.
and if it's sufficiently broad enough for like new viewers, your current audience, like it'll work. Like it'll work even if you depart from it, like your normal format. So okay,
That's true.
very
By the way, I see
interesting.
that all the time too with people analyzing movies and stuff. I see this with Star Wars all the time. Like what would have happened if this were slightly different? And they just use clips from the movies and TV shows that kind of show what they're talking about, even though because they're just kind of pulled in out of context. Um, so they're not. It's like they're having to animate anything. They're just talking through it and kind of giving an analysis. Kind of same kind of concept. It's like a video essay.
Interesting.
It works.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, I mean, again, you could do that for anything you want. I'm just thinking of some of the hobbies, like I homebrew beer a little bit. And like, I mean, you could analyze beers and go to different places and get clips. So I mean, the sky's the
Yeah.
limit. I mean, you could do anything you want. And it's such a big audience. I don't know the stats for like the number of people that interact with YouTube daily,
It's
but
crazy
it's
though.
like a billion or something. Like it's
Yeah.
insane, right? It's like almost everyone, especially like in the US, Canada, um, like we all watch YouTube. Not all, but it's like 83% of like all people that have access like
Yeah.
watch YouTube daily. It's crazy.
They
Okay.
they recently this summer they surpassed Netflix. They're the number one most viewed platform for television. So not even counting like watching on your mobile or your computer. Literally, it's watched on a television screen more often than any other platform. It's crazy.
Man, you know when you just get like business ideas, like as we're having these conversations. So I'll give one away here. I like food a lot. I cook all the time. One of my
Nice.
passions. I watch the Food Network all the time, and I have like since I remember getting the channel in like the whatever the mid '90s or something. And I'll watch Guy Fieri, Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives, and there's tons of clips on YouTube. There's like so many clips, but now YouTube, or sorry, the Food Channel has figured out that on YouTube, if they are live streaming, then it'll pop like it's favored by the algorithm. Like this live stream is favored by the algorithm, so they are now just streaming Triple D on the Food Network. So if you go there, they may switch it up or whatever. Like maybe they'll start doing some Halloween stuff with the season and there's all their shows. But like people love Guy and I guess his videos are doing awesome. So they're doing like longer clips and they can all stand alone. So it's just like clip after clip after clip. So anyway, I think they're just broadcasting the feed to YouTube.
Uh-huh.
And here's the business idea. He's been to like whatever thousands of places. Like you could probably do clips and like put stuff together, and one would have to do their own analysis and all that. But there's potentially something there, or you can go to the restaurants and just eat there. I like that too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Okay.
awesome.
All right. So let's get back on topic here. A couple questions that I have. You mentioned it was an outdoor space, right?
Yeah.
So I take it we're not sharing the website, right? We want to keep it pure.
Um I think it's okay. I think I mentioned it in the video.
Okay.
So I think it's all right because Even now it's at, like I said, 12 or 13,000 page views a month. Anyway, so
Okay.
no problem.
Well, I was going to say, like, you don't have to say it. People can go
Okay.
hunt it down on your other video. That'll give them a little Easter
Sounds
egg to
good.
find.
There you go. Go find it.
People say like certain spaces are saturated. Outdoor seems like a saturated space. Even if you're looking at YouTube or a new social media platform or whatever, it's like there's already like tens of thousands of creators in that space or blogs or whatever. So do you feel it's saturated, especially since you're sort of trying to catch up to where you were before? And what advice do you have for people that are like, well, I'm in a saturated space, it's more competitive than it used to be, like this seems like it's a hopeless cause?
Right. Couple things. One, because most blogs have been essentially removed from Google, um, things are less saturated now in the blogging space than they once were in terms of getting traffic and getting seen, especially if you can kind of crack the SEO code. So that's just one little piece. But the real answer I would give is, in all the years of doing this, I find that no matter how saturated a niche is, we're always able to find things that people are asking about that at least you can search all over the internet and you just can't find a good answer for it. It's amazing. The possibilities of what you could create content about are basically endless, especially once you add in all the possible iterations of different opinions and different experiences. I mean, I have a channel in the kind of preparedness space, right? And it's amazing to me that like something that I learned as a kid, of growing up doing it a certain way, I know it works well. And I'll talk about it in a video, and somebody else is like, what are you talking about? That's not the right way to do it. This is how I do it. And it turns out there's like 7 different ways that are all acceptable ways to do it that all work, you know? And so everybody can share their opinions, and we can even debate about it in the comments sometimes. And, people are usually pretty nice, but, there's just so many different life experiences that people have had depending on where they grew up and stuff. And we can now share this all across the world. So I don't know. I kind of feel like in the blogging space, especially with the amount of kind of content spinning and stuff that's been happening for years, we reached a point where it seemed like there was always a consensus. Like any question you asked, there was like a consensus answer. And with social media and YouTube, it's becoming really clear that that's not the case. And I don't know. It just seems like it's kind of like how, on a number line, there's an infinite number of integers, right? It extends on and on and on into infinity. But also on a number line between the numbers 0 and 1, there are also an infinite number of numbers, because you can always divide it smaller and smaller and smaller. And the concept that there can be infinity in this tiny little space, it blows people's minds. And, but there can be. And so even within a niche that feels like, there's so many people doing it, I just don't see that as a problem. If anything, it helps that industry be established, and it gives you more data, especially on YouTube, because so much of the data is just publicly available. I can see what videos get the most views on a channel. And so it's like, okay, cool. That was a good topic. What if I talk about that, but in my way, and share my experience? And so anyway, there's just kind of an infinite amount of content we could create. And as long as there's an audience for it, a certain group of that audience will take to your way of doing it. Anyway, it's never really an issue for me, I don't think.
I agree. There's always new people popping up in very established industries, and there's space for everyone, I think, most of the time. I have a couple tangents to go on, but I'm gonna pull it back in, and I won't do that. We got a couple questions I want to hit, and we're
Cool.
going to talk about some of the other tactical stuff, including like KPIs and metrics that you're going to monitor. But before we get to that, I have a sponsor I want to mention. That's Linkify. They do digital PR, and I interviewed the founder, one of the co-founders, Chris Pantelli. And have you heard of Linkify out there?
I've never tried it. I
Okay.
haven't tried it. I'm curious to try it because I'm always I'm always interested to see what opportunities are in digital PR because I see so many things. I get emails all the time from people that are
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'll do a digital PR campaign."
Yeah. I never trust those. But Chris, so
Me either.
Chris has a amazing service. He did a campaign for me about a year ago in Epic Links, Ricky. It was like NASDAQ, Yahoo Finance, another one
Wow.
that I don't belong in also. Nailed those links. And I was like, hey, let's do another campaign. He just got a link for me at Ahrefs
Uh-huh.
on a roundup type post. So can't get a better link than that for our space. So you
Right.
can save 10% if you go to nichesiteproject.com/linkify, coupon code Doug. So people can check that out. And I'll do like another video in the future highlighting the campaign that he's done for me. But he'll get a couple links out there. But yeah, definitely worth checking out. It's a company that does white labeling too. So if people have an agency out there, they don't have the bandwidth to actually execute. If you sell, like they could run the campaign for you fully white labeled. So very cool program out there. All right. So a couple of the tactical things, like I said, we'll get to those. One more question from the chat. Someone asked about forums. So with Google sort of favoring user generated content, should they add a forum to their existing platform? What are your thoughts on that?
I think there are spaces where that could work. I mean, user generated content is super valuable. And if you can encourage people to create that, I think that's fantastic. Um, from what I've seen, I think the biggest value is, and it can be the same tool, the same software, but frame it more as a community than as a forum. Um, if you can get people to participate in a community where it seems, and forums are intended to be collaborative and community like, but I don't know, there's just a different feel. It's kind of like being in a Discord group versus being just going to Reddit or something like that. So anyway, I guess maybe that's the feel I would give to it is try to create community, invite people to participate in community, and you're probably going to get better engagement and interaction. It doesn't do any good to create a forum if nobody posts in it. So we just need to make it the kind of place where people want to come and hang out.
Good answer. I would say if you wouldn't do a forum independent of Google, don't do a forum because like
Great point.
you're unless you're going to do it for free, like it's a lot of work. You have the issue of like supply and demand. So like you need people that are posting, you need the community. So if you weren't going to do it just for fun, don't do it.
Don't
Don't.
do it.
Yeah. So in my thing is like, don't cater to Google. Like if you got to do what you got to do,
Right.
that's cool. But if you're like, I heard Google likes this, they're going to change their mind. Like they're not going to be like, oh, there's a forum now. That's fantastic. If there's good information, like maybe they'll favor it a little bit more, but they'll pull the rug
Yeah.
out. So another question here. So if you have a new site that has a DA of less than 10, what can you do to increase the DA in a short time, like in a few months? I'll quickly preface and just say, like, you shouldn't worry about the DA. Like, try to put out good content. DA is I would say it's an antiquated metric nowadays anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you should aim to like network and meet people in your industry. That'll pay off more. Digital PR, blah blah blah. But like your goal should be to get more traffic, not increase your DA. So Ricky, any thoughts on this one?
I just totally agree with that. I mean, DA, there's different. I mean, everybody that's got a form of the DA metric kind of has their own way to calculate it, and most of them are based off of primarily backlink profile. And again, I think it's just a piece of what actually is real domain authority, if you know what I mean. And so I've never worried about DA. I've had sites that, Ahrefs gives me a domain authority or domain ranking, or I can't remember which one they call it. that's really low, like 5. And then SEMrush says it's like 40. And I'm like, which is it? It just, they calculate them differently. They're doing their best, but I don't cater to that. Just create good content and make real connections.
And I know Barat he's just like, I just want to get more traffic. He probably read
Totally.
somewhere like DA, like, so, we know you're not just trying to play with the metrics
Right.
and all that stuff. So, okay. So you mentioned Pinterest as a search engine and like using that to pull traffic. How long does it take to kind of get momentum on Pinterest? I've heard nowadays you kind of have to grind for a little while before you start seeing the traffic. So, what have you seen out there? What might you advise to people?
It seems to start to really pick up if you're just consistent with it. Even if you're pinning like 1 or 2 pins a day, it'll start to pick up pretty quick after about 4 months. Not a ton. More pins, generally better to a point. You got to be a little careful. Pinterest, if they'll deactivate accounts if it looks like you're just over spamming. And so that's something we'll watch for. But I mean, you could be pinning several pins a day, 10 pins a day, and it's going to pick up faster. But there is a little bit of we'll call it a sandbox, right? That's the terminology we're used to, maybe, where you start out and Pinterest seems to kind of want to see that there's going to be some consistency for a while, but then your pins will start showing up and gaining traction, and some people will follow and all of those things like the normal social media. But as people start to engage with your pins, they'll show up more and more and more. And then it just rolls from there. We had a Project 24 member who started her blog last, I want to say like September, and she posted in our community in like in the spring, probably April or May, how she was getting 30,000 page views a month on her blog already, but it was basically all from Pinterest. And she wasn't doing anything special, just a few pins a day. Not a whole lot to it.
Is there already a YouTube channel associated with this website?
I don't think so.
Is YouTube going to be a primary piece?
I would like it to be. The issue for me at this point would just be bandwidth to be able to create the content. But if I can, get somebody on board that would do it or something like that. But I think with the team I have right now, we wouldn't have the bandwidth to do it justice. But I think it could be fantastic on YouTube.
Mm. Because I mean, as we've talked about, like obviously you and I produce videos, so we like believe in YouTube. We have, the gear and stuff. And as I look at, the full picture of what you explained, especially thinking about like monetization, selling your own products, and then looking at like the ROI of like, hey, let's schedule some pins, which honestly, that's like I mean, that seems like a joke to me. Like not
Right.
the plan. Like I understand you can get traffic.
Yeah.
But it's like
I'm with you.
if you want to sell your own products, like you're probably better off doing a YouTube channel, because like people will build trust. They'll buy whatever, like a water bottle or whatever you're doing, right? Or if it's a digital product, they'll pay, $200 for like a backpacking starter course.
Totally.
Right? On Pinterest, like I don't see the connection. It's like, you got to get them on your email list and then you got to build trust and all this. So why not cut out the BS, the Pinterest stuff, and just go straight to like, here's our business model. Like we're selling products. This is like the fastest route to get someone into our funnel. So what do you think? Am I simplifying it too much?
I don't think so. I mean, that is 100% the route I would recommend to people. And in fact, when people come to me and they're just like, I see the value in a blog and a website, and all that, and there's a lot of value there, but I'm interested in YouTube too. Where should I start? I'm like, go start your YouTube channel. Forget about your website for today. Go learn YouTube first, start that channel, get it moving, get people following and watching and all that. And then, once things start to move, okay, cool. We'll set up a website for you if you want that you can use and you don't even have to have that, right? You can create email lists. You can have sales pages and products and stuff all through like third-party platforms if you want to. But I like having my own website.
Right.
So I'm still recommending that, but yeah, 100%. I think the biggest thing for me is my team here is fairly small, and we're currently running very actively 3 channels. And so I think it's just a bandwidth issue right now. But I would love to, honestly, I think one of the most fun things I could do would be to have an outdoor YouTube channel.
I know.
That's kind of why I'm in the preparedness space, is it's like, it ties into stuff I really like, but outdoors is right up there.
Yeah, I hear it. Well, and that's what I think about too. I mean, I actually have, I'm sort of a bad vlogger because it sort of pulls you out of like whatever it is you're doing. But I have like tons of footage of like some of the adventures from over the summer and like other stuff. And I actually I enjoy recording it. And then maybe I put the footage on the shelf. Maybe one day I'll come back to it. But like, yeah, as we're talking about it, it's just like, yeah, it's probably like our hobbies, and you film it and then it ends up being work. But yeah. So one of the other questions is around like how much, I mean, you were alluding to it here, but it's like, hey, you have bandwidth that you have to manage. So you have a team, but they also have like their normal day jobs that they need to do. So like, do you know how much time, like as a former or current project manager, like, do you know how many hours per week you're attributing for this? Like, what are you estimating? Like, did you go through an exercise where we have like however many man hours and all that stuff? So what does it actually look like?
Yeah. For the stuff that I talked about in the video, not doing a YouTube channel, we're looking at around 5 hours a week, 5 man hours a week. So that might get split up between a few people, but pretty simple. Especially with AI now that we can use to help repurpose content for social media, it's not super time consuming, and we can do a lot. And then some of the other things, even the monetization stuff, because I don't feel the need to do everything overnight. So we can kind of just have these ongoing projects. And so it's probably going to be 5-ish hours a week. If I were to do a YouTube channel, I think I would dedicate quite a bit more than that to it. Like you mentioned, you could film all your stuff, great, but then editing the videos and turning them into something that you can publish that's going to be effective it is substantial. And right now I don't have extra editing capacity, although I could outsource that. So, there are a lot of people. I get emails all the time too from people who are like, "Hey, let me edit your videos for you." And I really like our in-house people, but yeah, I could probably pretty cheaply outsource that. So maybe I'm making excuses.
Yeah. Well, there's always like some extra mental energy that it takes up, even if someone else is doing the work. Okay. So fairly minimal, about 5 hours across probably a few people or so. And it sounds like it's fairly, systematized, and you're able to run it into, whatever it is you're doing. Okay. So that's not too bad. How long do you think it'll be before you start seeing some results?
Yeah, that's the part that's, I think, trickiest, is because with how much things have changed, with Pinterest, like I said, it can take, it seems that about 4 months that we can start to get traffic, like real traffic from over there, but it probably won't be massive traffic. Even 1,000 page views a month at that point would be a nice start, but we know traffic growth can exponentially grow for a while from there. And that works on Pinterest as well. With all of the other social media stuff, I don't have as clear a picture on how long it would take. So if I'm posting and, I've got people that are posting and participating in social media across other platforms, outdoor stuff, they may end up participating in forums, not just social media. But also Instagram is probably a place they'll be. And if you're doing an Instagram, might as well do Facebook too. Anyway, just participating across all that stuff. Some of those places, I mean, you can start to gain followers, but it's hard. There's only a percentage of that ends up on the website. So I don't know. There's a lot of unknown there.
Okay.
Then the other question is just like, at what point does Google start giving it a chance again? And I don't know that either. And again, we don't want that to be the primary focus, but it could be a substantial piece once it happens.
Yeah, with Forbes getting, I think, a manual penalty, unsubstantiated, allegedly. But something's going on there. If people haven't done any reading on that, it's like a soap opera or something like that. But we'll talk about that some other time. Okay, so as we're wrapping up here, you've outlined the plan. It sounds like if you had unlimited capacity, you would also do a YouTube channel and focus a little bit on that area. Maybe even just like solely focus on that instead of everything else, potentially. Putting words in your mouth. You also don't know how long it might take. So as a project manager, like, what KPIs are you going to be looking at as you go to make sure you're doing the right thing? Do you need to pivot? Do you just need to ignore the sunk cost and just like throw it away and be like, all right, like, it's better if we just focus on whatever, some other thing? So what KPIs are you going to look at?
Yeah. I mean, in the short term, and by short term, I'm talking about probably several months, on any platform we're on, we're definitely going to be just looking at the reach, but also the click through. And we'll be able to see that in our Google Analytics as well, to just see where traffic is coming from. I mean, we're still running ads from Raptive on the website. So there'll be income from that. But, I'm going to want to be able to see a fairly quick turnaround in terms of traffic growth to the website. Given the just sheer amount of content that we have to work with, I think we can do that. But that's the main thing I'm going to be looking at is, can I just get traffic to the website first? But I think one of the big problems is one you described earlier, which is I can get social media traffic. They can come to the website. It's not really any better than the SEO traffic from before in terms of converting for sales and in terms of like building a real brand. And so that's what I need to look for, is a good way to measure different activities and how well they strengthen the brand. Like, posting on social media could potentially drive traffic. I can get click through. Great. But does engaging in social media do more to build the reputation because we're being helpful when other people are posting questions and talking about stuff? How much more does it build the reputation when I go do a 1-hour podcast interview with somebody talking about cabins and stuff, and they can see that I legitimately know what I'm talking about and that I'm the author of the content about cabins on that website? Just how much does that stuff, and those are some of the KPIs. I mean, I can look and see how many people come from there, and I can give them links to content with, tags in those links so that in Google Analytics, I can see those. And I can track all that, but the harder thing is kind of that brand reputation. So for that, I don't totally know. I think we could potentially do surveys and stuff, but we could also try some kind of easier entry type products that we try to sell. That one of the things that I've been learning a lot about lately is just like a good processes for ideation and not throwing out ideas that we don't know if they'd be good or not, and we just assume they're not good. Not throwing them out, but looking for ways that we can quickly and cheaply test them. So if I can come up with some even free lead magnet kind of stuff. Like, how compelling is that offer? How many people are signing up in terms of a conversion rate, as a percentage of people coming to that page or whatever. I think those are all things that would be ways to try to gauge that, because I think brand reputation is probably what I'm going for most.
Got it. Man, there's so much. I think we could
Yeah.
talk about this for hours, and it's so murky. Like, we're experts, but it's unclear
Yeah.
because everything has changed, like, really so much. And it's like we know what good options might be, but like you do have to test it, and it does take time to execute and the bandwidth, and then you have to get the results and then adapt from there. So it's like
Right.
this will be something people could follow along with. So as we're wrapping up, people are probably aware of Income School. I did link in the description. I want to let people know that I do live streams each week, typically on Tuesday. Occasionally I have some other commitment and I move the day. So you could sign up for my YouTube notifications because YouTube isn't great at doing that. So there's a link there. I also want to point out Project 24. So I think last time I described it as like a community with courses, but it's a platform. And Ricky, I'm going to turn over the floor to talk about Project 24 a little bit. There's a link in the description. I'm an affiliate. If you do check it out, I think you're going to be really happy. But what's the deal with it, Ricky?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely use Doug's link. Project 24 is, like Doug said, it's a whole platform for content creators. Honestly, for digital marketing in general, we do have like it's still called the blogging system, but we teach you how to build a website if you've never done that before. Like, start a website and how to create content and how to come up with the topics for the content and all of that stuff. And then all the different ways that we like to monetize it. So we talk about creating these digital products and information-based products and memberships and how to get ads on your site, how to do affiliate marketing most effectively. We have actually multiple strategies for that. So it's not just write product reviews. That's kind of one approach to affiliate marketing. But we also have our whole YouTube system, our whole approach for how we start a brand new channel and how we grow it. And I think that's right now, because of the unpopular nature of blogging, that's really like one of the biggest attractive things, I think, to most content creators is learning how to do YouTube. We have so many people watching our channel called Channel Makers that teaches YouTube education, and who are talking about how they've just been trying this for months and months, some of them years and years, and have never gotten their channel to the point of monetization, which again, they're thinking in the YouTube mindset, which is like, I need 1,000 subscribers. I need 4,000 hours of watch time within a 12-month period. And then YouTube will start giving me money. And we're trying to teach people, look, I just started a new YouTube channel a year ago and I made my first dollar within 2 weeks. But that's because I came from blogging, where I know a dozen other ways to monetize. And so anyway, we're helping those people, and we're teaching them ways to. So many people feel like, oh, the algorithm hates me. There's something about me that it doesn't like, and we're giving people a process to work through to get past that and realize there are certain skills required for YouTube that until you have them, you don't realize there's a reason your video didn't perform as well as somebody else. So we're guiding you through all that. And then within that, there's a whole community of people that are all helping each other. We do mastermind sessions where we answer all of your questions and look at your stuff one-on-one. Anyway, it's so many different ways that we're trying to help you. And there are some people in here. Tony, Simplify Gardening. Tony was a member, full-time finisher number 69, and he says there.
Nice.
Absolutely.
And I interviewed John it's been a few months, but another super successful, he has a full platform, right? He has a YouTube channel, he has a blog, he's selling, various either coaching courses in a specific niche, which does not make money online, by the way. It's like
Right. No, it's
completely
not.
independent. Great niche, great dude, great interview overall. So yeah, highly recommend. And I think, one of the things we're trying to communicate, Ricky, is like, you and I talked about blogging a lot before, like that was the thing that we were doing, but like Project 24 is like a full suite of digital marketing skills, whether it's Pinterest or YouTube or just content production in general. And there's a team, there's experts and members in the community that are doing the thing that you're trying to learn.
Right.
Or if you want to expand out and like, I want to add a Pinterest skill set to my, my traffic generation, like that's what you can go check out. So,
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ricky, it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out. We'll check in with you before too long, maybe beginning of the year, give you time to get some stuff down.
Nice.
But thanks for joining today. Really, it's always fun to catch up.
It is. I appreciate it, Doug. It's always a blast.
Cool. Well, everybody, thanks for popping in. We'll see you next week. And if you're watching the replay later, just leave a comment for the algorithm. It always helps out. So, all right. Thanks a lot, y'all.